Just in the garden, and I thought I'd do a little bit of sunflower botany. I'm going to try to keep this one short and to the point, but I don't know, there's a lot to say about sunflowers, and they're one of my favorite families, so I don't know, let's just dive in. So, this is Helianthus Anuus, aka common sunflower or mammoth sunflower, and is in the Asteraceae family, which is a botanically complex and well-adapted plant family. So, what you're looking at is a capitulum, which is a genetic trait. Oh, there's a little guy in there. That's a earwick. No. Anyways, a capitulum is a genetic trait common amongst the Asteraceae family, but not, endemic to it, because there are other plant families that you could say have a capitulum, but generally associated with Asteraceae. And basically, a capitulum is a large disc that houses hundreds or even thousands of small florets. So when you look at a sunflower family, it may look, when you look at a sunflower, it may look like a giant flower, but if you look closely, it's actually composed of hundreds of smaller flowers. And these are called florets. And these florets lay on the capitulum, which is this disc underneath the florets. So, angiosperms are good at this kind of thing, duping or tricking insects or even humans from seeing the bigger picture. Anyways, sunflowers are moneocious, meaning on a single flower head they will house both male and female flowers. Also, the florets are protandrous, meaning each floret is male and then turns female. And this occurs through centripetal maturation, which is where the flowers mature outwards in. So, all the first flowers to develop are on the outwards going in, and they will develop male first and then turn female. So all of these flowers have died actually, and I think if I brush them away, they're all dying back. But so they've already gone male then female, but some of these in the center here are still female. And if you go further in the center, these ones are just turning male, so they're in their first stage of development. And what happens is the male flower will develop, which is these tube-looking things, right? These kind of tube-looking things here are called anthers. And this is male pollen, all this yellow stuff on these anthers. And underneath that is the filament. So the male flowers are composed of a filament and an anther. And then later in their life cycle, the style and stigma will emerge from the anther, creating something that looks like this, which is, it kind of pops out of the anther and splits off into what is called a bilobed stigma. And essentially, what happens is you get the male pollen to disperse, and then the female pollen to disperse, and they will genetically mate amongst each other, basically. So in the eyes of a pervert, or through kind of an immoral perspective, what's going on is a giant orgy. Not just an orgy, but a family orgy, which is kind of fucked up. But that's how nature works. And so these florets will turn male and then turn female through centripetal maturation. So on the outwards, they will all be the first to turn male, and then female going outward in. So that's why these are still male and then will turn female. That's called protandrous, is when a floret is male and then female. And when a flower houses both male and female flowers, that is called moneocious. So that's kind of the gist of it. After the flowers have pollinated, they kind of take all their energy into producing these seeds. So you can see behind the florets, as I knock them off, are the sunflower seeds, which hold the genetics to create new flowers. And sunflowers were actually a staple crop, and they're still used as a food crop. You know, we use them for oil. You just buy bags of them flavored, so they're still very prevalent in today's age. But back then, people would really rely on this as a staple food crop. And over the years, we've been able to mess with their genetics to create species that are massive and have giant seeds, or even mix the colors. Interesting thing is these yellow petals aren't actually petals. They're like a modified leaf or a type of bract. So they're not petals. The petals are actually on the florets, and I believe they're called corollas. So these are actually called ray florets, and they're not technically petals. They're just showy leaves. An important thing about sunflowers is the phylaries. The phylaries are important because they help determine what species you're dealing with. Another thing I can mention are the very hairy stems. The stems are hairy to prevent moisture loss, also protect them from the sun, exposure to sun. The leaves are very sandpaper-like. They're very gritty. Large tooths on the margins of the leaves. And they can get up to, 7-10 feet tall. Alright, I think I'll end it there before this video drags on. Hope you learned something, hope you enjoyed, and have a good rest of your day. Peace.